John O'Brien out here in my playground. My main research and educational plot on a windy fall day. I say this all the time and that I wish more people could be with me traveling throughout my day. It's a wonderful place to be out in nature, and research is not just my life, but I'm a voracious learner. I'm learning something every time I'm even out here, even though I've spent, I don't even know how many hours every year out here in my research plot and other properties. What I did today, and in the background I got different blocks of brassicas, including some new stuff that very few people have in the United States, and I love that. But the one thing I also showed in some places, I took forage samples last week. Now I'm taking soil samples in the fall, also doing a repetition in the spring. And so I know how these forages produced and comparing them, benchmarking compared to how they normally would be. But I'm also looking at our soil nutrient levels. I have two samples the previous year. Every year we have samples taken, so I got a history. And I can see which way we're moving the needle, left or right, or keeping it balanced. The one thing I really noticed, and I wish people were with me, and if you guys all were walking around and you had a soil compaction meter, you might learn something that I've seen some cases, but at times I sometimes overlook. The probe that I put into the ground, I sampled 12 different cores, 12 different areas out here. Some of the areas are current straight brassicas. Some areas there's brassica blends. Some acres there have been perennials that were into perennials for many years, newer perennials, as well as a couple control blocks that are bare right now for various reasons. So when I pushed any of the areas that were worked a little bit, even though I'm trying to do reduced tillage, barely work in the ground this year, previous years, there's areas that we did work the ground some, usually no more than 2 inches deep. But the areas where they've been in the perennials for a long period of time, guess what? That probe slid right in. Soil's got more moisture, less compaction and all that, right? And the areas that I worked the ground some in the past, the ground, of course, was more compacted. You could tell when you push that probe in the ground what it's like. And then lastly, in a couple of these areas, one area that is pretty much fallow, a little bit more compacted, been really dry, not a lot of rain. And so again, the core of sample core has been, came back pretty dry because of not having a lot of rain and not having good moisture holding capacity, because we're not having residue on top of the ground. And lastly, one other area where we had some late planted brassicas barely even touch the ground. I mean, basically just running the plot master over it just to kind of fluff a little bit of the soil, but with the roller behind it. So basically, I don't even know how I say minimum till. I mean, basically no till. Maybe less tilling than even some no-till heavy equipment would be used. And in that area, again, was kind of somewhere in between. More compacted than the non-work ground, a little bit more moisture than the areas where there was nothing done to it. And because we have a little bit more residue in those areas where basically we're mainly, overseeding with basically using the disc just to throw a little bit of soil in the air, not even going an inch deep, probably, a quarter inch deep, maybe half inch, I don't know. But just so you're just creating just a little bit of a seed bed so the roller of the plot master can press that seed in. So we have some areas we did that. So what have I learned today? I learned that. I mean, I talk about soil oxygen all the time to my clients. And again, I saw it firsthand. I felt it firsthand. Everybody uses their eyes as basically a guide or a means to determine success. My success is measured not just on yield, also is measured on quality, which is why we take forage samples of everything we plant. And then lastly, looking at overall soil health. And I talk about at times bringing soil alive. You guys are out here right now, you can see visually, but also you can be feeling with the probe, and then also again seeing again with the cores that are produced by taking the soil samples with a probe, as far as various soil health, what you actually see in that core, things like that of that nature. So again, have I told you anything profound? Perhaps not, but just a few thoughts, a few observations of what's going on right now in my world. From John O'Brien out here in south central Wisconsin on my main research and educational plot.